Why did President Traoré smile that morning? Why did he act like nothing was wrong when his brother's life was on the line? 7:46 a.m. It was a seemingly normal morning at the presidential palace in Burkina Faso. Security advisors were preparing for a routine meeting. President Ibrahim Traoré was just about to sip his morning coffee when his chief bodyguard rushed in, his hands shaking as he held out a phone. Everyone fell silent as the video began to play. On the screen, Traoré's younger brother, Yacouba, tied up in a dark room, his hands bound, eyes covered. The camera was shaky. A distorted voice followed, $10 million, and the resignation of the Minister of the Interior, or your brother dies. The room froze, but Traoré's expression didn't shift, not fear, not rage, just a whisper under his breath. This game isn't made for me. The security team immediately traced the origin of the message. What they discovered left the room in shock. The IP address wasn't foreign. It was coming from inside the presidential network. In other words, the threat was inside. Traoré calmly placed his coffee back on the table. His eyes sharpened. If they want a war, they've picked the wrong opponent. But in that very moment, no one noticed the tiny slip of paper Traoré silently slid beneath the table. No one read what it said. Only he knew, and that note would change the entire game. President Traoré didn't launch an official investigation. Not a single word was leaked to the media. From this point on, he would play by his own rules. First, palace surveillance systems were quietly reactivated. Internal network traffic was encrypted and logged. The mission was clear: track the predator without alerting the prey. The first suspect emerged quickly. A captain from Yacouba's personal security team had made a large money transfer within the last 72 hours. But it wasn't enough. They needed time to follow the trail without spooking him. That's when the real clue surfaced, from the most unexpected place. In a forgotten corner of the palace's coffee room, a USB drive was recovered. At first glance it looked wiped clean, but a single restored file contained one chilling message: your brother is still alive, but nothing is what it seems. Traoré watched the message over and over. He focused on one specific phrase: nothing is what it seems. This wasn't just about ransom. It was a chessboard, and someone was already 10 moves ahead. Alone in his office, Traoré opened an old military strategy book. On the edge of a worn-out page, a phrase he had written years ago stared back at him: you don't kill trust with bullets, you kill it by leaking truth. This wasn't a reminder anymore, it was a call to action. Yacouba was alive, but saving him would require more than brute force. It would require revealing the real enemy, even if that enemy sat within his own government. This time, Traoré played the game differently. Whatever the kidnappers demanded, he appeared to comply. $10 million were prepared. Media outlets were silenced. The Minister of the Interior's resignation was conveniently leaked. But this wasn't surrender. It was a flawless performance. The stage was set. Traoré divided his team into three. One unit tracked the IP signal to its supposed location. Another staked out old broadcasting towers on the outskirts of the city. And the third, they had the most delicate job of all, they followed Traoré himself, because the president had just made himself the bait. Appearing on national television, Traoré addressed the kidnappers directly: return my brother. In exchange, you'll get my silence. But this broadcast was more than words. The lighting in the room, the brightness of the background screens, even the subtle tilt of his chair, every element was a signal. Traoré wasn't just talking to the kidnappers. He was sending a hidden message to someone else entirely. I know you're watching. Moments later, the intelligence unit's alert system was triggered. A new login had entered the national broadcast database during the live stream. The source? Not an outsider, not even one of the kidnappers. It was a high-ranking government advisor. As Traoré stepped away from the cameras, he spoke just one word: they saw. But what had been seen wasn't just the president's plea, it was a checkmate in motion. And the real war was just beginning. After the broadcast, digital forensics traced the suspicious system login. It had originated from a ministerial server, but the protocol logs had been manually edited. This wasn't the work of an amateur. This was surgical-level access, only available to a select few. Traoré gave a quiet order: whoever cracked that system is someone close, very close. That same night a new video arrived. Yakuba appeared on screen, his eyes sunken, his face pale. He looked directly into the camera, lips trembling. At first glance it seemed like nothing, no sound, no scream. But when lip-reading experts analyzed the footage, they uncovered a chilling whisper, "Brother, someone on the inside, someone you trust." The message hit Traoré like a silent explosion. His mind raced through memories, childhood friends, loyal staff, campaign allies. One of them had crossed the line. The signal was traced to a hidden underground broadcast station. A raid was conducted, but only a technician was found, clueless and terrified. The real orders, they came from someone higher, the Deputy Minister of the Interior. And worse, he was Traoré's cousin. When the president was told, he didn't flinch. He simply said, "Family? Number family is not blood. Family is loyalty." The next morning, in a sealed chamber, deep within the palace, Traoré stood before his inner circle. He scanned their faces and declared, "This government is under attack from within, and before I take down the wall breaker, I'll strip their eyes, then their mask." Yakuba was now just one step away, but this was no longer a rescue mission. It was a purge. Traoré had finally connected every piece of the puzzle. He now knew exactly what he was up against, who played which role, and how the final act of this dark play would unfold. But war, he believed, should never be fought like the enemy. It must be fought like a nation, with patience, with proof, with justice. At exactly 6 a.m., the command was given. 8 coordinated raids launched across the country. The underground broadcast station was quietly seized. There was almost no resistance. Cameras, microphones and encrypted data servers were confiscated. And in the back room, head down, eyes wet, sat Yakuba. They untied his hands. He whispered, barely audible, "Brother, how did you know?" Traoré placed a firm hand on his shoulder and replied, "Because silence is often the loudest scream." But the rescue was just the beginning. Simultaneously, the Deputy Minister of the Interior was arrested at home. 4 high-level advisors linked to him were stripped of power. A covert financial web, stretching from Swiss banks to Dubai and Paris, was exposed. Millions of dollars had passed through a fake company, the Ant Consortium. Now every dollar had a name, every name had a consequence. That evening the nation stood still. Televisions flickered in every home. Traoré appeared before the people. Flags waved behind him. Cameras stood in perfect rows. At his side, his rescued brother. Behind him, his loyal guards. In his eyes, no exhaustion, only clarity. He spoke. "Today, I didn't just recover my brother. I restored the trust of a nation. This attack was never about me. It was about all of us." The crowd held its breath. Then a single chant erupted. "Justice! Justice!" And just before the cameras cut out, Traoré delivered his final line. "No matter what name betrayal wears, our answer will always be the same. Justice." The next morning, headlines across the African continent echoed the same message. Traoré's silent victory. The final move came from the state. And now the world understood this wasn't just a rescue. It was a strategic revolution that reshaped the future.